Welcome to the Calsoft podcast series. This is your host Mark Rodrigues. With me today I have Taizun Kachwala. Hey Taizun, it's good to have you on the show.
Hi Mark, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. So Taizun's going to be talking to us today on a very interesting topic. He's going to be talking to us about storage, performance, evaluation and benchmarking. Again, it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So a quick brief about Taizun before we get into the podcast. He's a QA architect here with us at Calsoft. He has a little over 20 years of experience having worked for product and service-based enterprise companies. He has helped his team by providing his expertise on testing of the underlying product, so be it hardware-based or software-based. And he has performed performance evaluation, analysis and benchmarking of storage for different use cases, ranging from iSCSI, NAS and DAS storage technologies to high-performance file systems and flash-based caching file systems. Taizun, impressive resume.
Hey, that has to be, considering the last 15 to 16 years which I have spent in the storage industry, you have to touch all the different aspects of a storage, and performance is a very interesting area where I get to work. So I'm really feeling excited about the new storage technologies that are now coming up, and I'm looking forward to work on those latest technologies as well.
Brilliant. We are excited to have you here. So let's jump into the topic. Quick introduction. What is storage performance evaluation?
Sorry. Storage performance is basically to understand how your storage is performing when it is put to different use cases.
Correct.
And there are different metrics and terminologies that are associated when you talk about storage performance. So at today's podcast, we will try to shed some light on what are those metrics and what are the terminologies which are used in the storage performance evaluation, and what are the customers who are the storage vendors are looking to. What do they look for when they want to do performance testing and evaluation? What are they really trying to achieve? Right? So this will be the crux of today's discussion.
Okay. So then a basic question: why do storage providers need to do performance benchmarking? What are the reasons?
Well, when you talk about storage, then there are different types of protocols that the storage vendor is offering through his solution. The most widely being the SAN and NAS. And when you talk about SAN, it is nothing but the block storage, which is offered via iSCSI and the fiber channel protocols. And when you talk about NAS, the most widely protocols are the NFS and the SMB. And there is the new technology which is being put into this combination, and that is the object storage, which is again the de facto for cloud storage technologies.
Correct.
Now, when it comes to performance benchmarking, the solution vendor he needs to understand the intricacies of what to test, how to test, and he needs to understand the internals, the OS internals of the application where it is going to be put to, his own system, and the network, the combination of the network, their controller, and the host application and the OS, the combined impact of what it creates on the underlying storage. Correct. Is what needs to be evaluated. Correct. So when it comes to storage vendors, they need to particularly benchmark their offering against those different use cases and see how they fare against their competitors.
Right. Okay. So then what are the parameters one would typically look at, or what are the parameters that you need to report as a storage vendor?
Yeah. So traditionally, the vendors use different synthetic IO tools which has been present in the market for a while, like the most famous Unix DD command, and there are other plethora of open source tools like the IOmeter, IOzone, VDbench, or FIO to measure and record the performance of their system under test. In today's big data and hyper virtualized data centers, we need a different set of tools, that can do application-centric benchmarking of real-world workloads, such as you can think of databases, SQL as well as NoSQL, big data analytics, where compute farms are being put for data analytics, virtual desktop infrastructure that has become like a core now, and of course the other side of it is the video data acquisition and analytics. So there are various tools today available which can do application centric benchmarking. So let me kind of put some light on that. Spec SFS, which is one industry standard that many vendors today use. Login VSI. Now this is the tool that is used for testing the virtual desktop infrastructure performance, VDI performance. Similarly, there is VMmark, which is which is a VMware created tool for measuring the performance of all the different workflows of VMware. And then there is VMware, another open source tool which is known as VMware IO Analyzer. Okay, so this analyzes the IO for all the different types of workloads that you can possibly have within your virtualized infrastructure. Then there is the benchmark factory, which is very widely used for benchmarking of SQL databases. So these are replacing, these tools are actually replacing the conventional synthetic IO tools. And majorly, when you talk about performance, then there are 2 to 3 parameters which one need to be aware of. The first one being, so when you talk about performance, what exactly are you doing? I mean, what are you really measuring?
Correct.
So you are actually measuring the reads and writes,
Correct.
right, that are happening through your storage controller. So the first performance parameter that comes to it is to be measured is known as the IOPS.
Correct.
Now what is an IOPS? The number of IO operations that are happening through the channel per second. So when we talk about IOPS, the analogy that we can think about is like how many persons are passing through let's say there is a mall and there are a number of persons that are entering the mall, right? So how many persons are entering the mall? That you can think as an analogy for an IOPS. Right. Then there is another parameter that is also alternatively used. So this is an alternative to IOPS, and that is called as throughput or bandwidth. Now what is a throughput or bandwidth? It's like how many persons at a time can enter the mall. Correct. Okay. So how many persons can enter the gate, the entrance gate, is what you can treat as an throughput or bandwidth, right? And it is typically measured in megabytes or kilobytes per second.
Correct. What else?
There is it takes a time to basically let's say your shop is at the 5th floor of the shopping mall, and the shopper entering the mall, he takes the time to basically go up to the shop and then come down, right? Right. So the time that it takes for that shopper to go from the entrance of the shop, do the shopping and come back to the exit door, what you can term it as a response time or latency, right? So in storage world, when a read or a write is happening to the storage controller from the host, it takes time for the data to reach from the host to the controller, and from the controller to the backend disks, right? And then back from the disks to the requesting host. This is called as a one complete turnaround, and that is what is termed as a response time. So the response time is a cumulative sum of the times taken by a host to get a response from the backend storage, is what is termed as a response time or the latency. And it is usually measured in millisecond and microsecond.
Correct. I remember very recently you also spoke about front-end numbers and back-end numbers. Can you also throw some light on that?
Yeah. So the front-end numbers are the numbers that are seen from the host's perspective, which uses protocols such as the standard ones I mentioned about iSCSI, FC, FCOE, SMB, and NFS. Right. Whereas the backend numbers are the numbers that are seen from the backend storage. Now it could be a hard disk drive, or more recently the flash-based SSDs, the solid-state disks, which are using protocols such as the PATA, which is the parallel interface for ATA, SATA, which is the serial interface for ATA, SCSI, which is the most famous and widely used till date, and there is these promising serial attached SCSI. So these are the standard interfaces or protocols that are used between the storage controllers and the backend disks. So these are the two different numbers that one can look at. Now what is important for the storage vendors is to measure the performance as seen by the host, because this is where the customer or the end user is going to see his application being performing.
Thanks, Tyson. Interesting analogy. I think it will make things very easy to understand the mall reference. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So the next thing that comes to our mind is like, why do the storage vendors really need to measure these parameters? I mean, what is the use case of measuring such parameters?
Yeah, so throw some more light on that. Why would they need to do that?
Sure. So let me try that. So basically, any application is treated as a workload. So any application that performs an I/O under the underlying storage is called as a workload. And this workload is a standard rate at which a given application performs its read and write operations, and the pattern in which it does these reads and writes. For example, the patterns can be treated as random or sequential. Now, these are the two major patterns in which most applications will perform their I/O, right? Now, plotting of linear graph of throughput or IOPS versus the latency or the response time is the crux of this exercise. So all storage vendors would want to perform this exercise and plot a graph. Now, what do they do? I mean, what do they gain by plotting this graph? So each vendor targets its solution towards a specific use case, and a simulation of that use case or application workload is what it lets goosebumps for any such vendors, as identifying the right tool, knowledge of such tools, and along with that, end-to-end tuning of the storage system are the required ingredients for generating the right performance numbers for their solution. Now, reporting technically wrong numbers may ruin their business that his competitor may take away, and no one would want to lose the business opportunity due to such errors, right? In network parlance, I'm just giving an example of where the things may go wrong. So in network parlance, performance is measured in megabytes, gigabytes, terabyte, etc. Whereas in the storage parlance, it is measured in megabytes, gigabytes, and terabytes.
Interesting.
And the deviation between the two is from 2% to 10%.
Okay.
So as you go on a higher level, the deviation will keep on increasing, because one is of the logarithmic scale 10 and the another is a logarithmic scale of 2.
Okay.
Yes. So understanding the difference, what parameters to be recorded and what to be reported is very much important. It doesn't matter which one you used, but it is important that you do not mix up between the two.
Okay.
Now, plotting of the graph for direct consumption in the product marketing collaterals is the desired outcome for all storage solution vendors, right? So until and unless they don't get these numbers right, they cannot go to the market. And moreover, what happens is usually when they develop the solution, which are software driven, right? Today the entire storage world is moving towards software defined storage.
Yeah.
And when they have to report these numbers, they have to report these numbers across their different releases. So performing a regression of the performance numbers is also an important exercise for any storage vendor.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that. So you've obviously spoken about the business benefits of getting these numbers, right? But what are the stories around which these numbers need to be reported? Is there a specific methodology there?
Yes, Mark. Yeah. So unless we don't know where these numbers or where the applications will be put to use, you will not be able to understand how to record these numbers, right? So consider a database. So the database performs usually the CRUD operations. CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. All these different operations take typical time, and they give and they generate some typical numbers, right? Like IOPS. I had talked about IOPS, right? So identifying the number of IOPS that each of these operations would generate, and the time it takes for the application like a database to get a response back from the backend storage. This is what forms the crux of measuring a database performance. Like database, there are file system. Like most of the today's world is moving towards the NAS, and the file system that the NAS vendor has put on its backend, it also involves the same CRUD operations. Along with CRUD, then there is those BREAD operations also. The BREAD stands for browse, read, edit, add and delete. So all these operations has its own overhead, and then measuring the time it takes for that operation to perform and how many such operations can be performed per second, it is what is required to be reported. The same thing happens with an object storage and the block storage. Today, even with the big data, you need to understand like what operations are needed for operational versus analytical big data. Okay, so these are two different aspects of big data. One is operational and the second is the analytical. Right. Now, you cannot live without host virtualization in today's, software-defined data centers. So, as we talked about the virtual desktop infrastructure, that is one such use case where we have to measure the performance. So, the hypervisor VM operations it performs different types of patterns on the underlying storage, which are exported as block device or as a file system, as a direct file system. So, measuring the performance of the perceived storage performance by the VM, that becomes an important aspect of measuring the performance. And then there is this video data processing, which is highly required in today's hypermedia applications, right? Yeah. So, entire digital world is what is talking about is nothing but a video and Facebook videos and whatnot. So, measuring the performance of all such video data application is also a part of storage performance reporting. And the backend storage, which is required in compute farms in a high performance computing environment, that also needs to be one of such use cases. So all these together form different use cases which the storage vendors requires to measure and report to its end users.
All right, brilliant. So you've already obviously spoken about why and the what and the how and the which of storage performance evaluation benchmarking. Now, on a fundamental level, why would storage providers or storage vendors come to a service provider like Calsoft? And you've been working in this field for a while now, from what we know. So, why do you think is there a business benefit to talk to specialized service providers?
Yeah. Rightly, Mark. As I had mentioned about in the start of the podcast, that understanding of the entire storage subsystem, right from the application that is going to be using that storage to the OS internals where the application is installed, the storage controller and the entire networking, right? So someone needs to know the entire, have a knowledge of all these different objects in the segment in order to fine tune and understand the intricacies of all such different objects to fine tune and then measure the performance of the underlying storage file system.
So that's where we come in then.
Yes. Major service providers in this space, including Calsoft, they understand this nitty-gritty, and their expertise and their niche segment expertise, they can help the storage vendors to achieve what they want to achieve in terms of performance measurement and analysis. To add to that, someone has to have an ability to understand performance testing needs and the plethora of IO benchmarking synthetic tools. Someone need to have a thorough knowledge and understanding of the storage at different tiers, and they can suggest the typical workload patterns at those tiers, interpreting the output and extrapolating the results in a usable format that can be used for executive presentation, investor demo, or customer marketing collaterals. Execution of projects. So talking about Calsoft, I have been associated with Calsoft since almost like 7 years now. Okay. And I understand the kind of projects that Calsoft has done in the past. So just putting some light on what type of projects Calsoft has done in the past. So projects such as measurement of the flash application software, which is the front ending for the direct attached storage. We have done projects in that space for one of the major SSD and caching software solution provider. We have done high performance NAS testing for one of our for one of the storage vendors who is into object storage space. We have also done iSCSI fiber channel based SAN backend storage profiling, and very recently we have helped a leading hypervisor vendor to perform profiling of their storage which they are using for their public cloud offering. So if you look at the vast experience and the different tiers at which Calsoft has delivered the results to their to our customers, it makes Calsoft as a choice for many of the storage vendors when it comes to performance analysis and benchmarking.
Okay, that makes sense. So what essentially Taizun is saying then is that firstly, storage performance benchmarking and evaluation is required to stay ahead of the game and to stay ahead of the curve with your competitors, right, Taizun?
Right, that absolutely is right.
Okay, brilliant. So Taizun has helped us with an in-depth analysis of why and how we would do this and what are the parameters we're looking at. So that ends our podcast for today. For any feedback that you may have about this podcast, or if you would like to talk to Taizun, or if you have any feedback about any other podcast that we should do, you may write to us at marketing@calsoftinc.com. Thanks and have a great day. And Taizun, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for inviting.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.